Welcome to Wreck It Home. Today we'll be creating 3 art projects: Inkblot Bats, PopUp Cards, and paper lanterns.
Hey Happy Campers, welcome to Wreck at Home. My name is Mr. Jim, and this week's theme is Holiday Extravaganza. Today, let's pretend it's Halloween! Today's fun fact is about the bumblebee bat, also known as Kitty's hognose bat. It's the world's smallest bat and the smallest mammal in the world based on skull size. It is smaller than a baby carrot. In fact, it's smaller than the smallest baby carrot in your bag. Believe it. Today we are making Inkblot Bats, so we're going to have to get our supplies now. You'll need some paper. White and black work great, but any color will do. Some washable paints. Again, black and white are your best option, but like I said, any color works. A handful of markers. I'm going to be using black mostly, but the other colors could come in handy. And optional would be some scissors and glue.
Now let's remember our 3 rules for the project. Try your best. Remember, there's no perfect in making art. Be safe. Let's respect the materials and make sure that we're using them correctly. And be kind. Let's make sure our table's covered and ask for help when you need it.
The first step of my project is to fold my paper in half. So let me line up my edges here and then put a nice crease down the center. Your paper should look something like this. Now notice behind my paper, I have the table covered. This way, if I get paint on the table or make a little bit of mess, it's not that big of a deal. This is actually one of those projects where you can make a mess, so make sure you're working in an area that can get messy. You could even do the outside if that works better. I have my paint here poured into a small cup. This helps me control it a little bit better because instead of using a brush, right, I'm going to be pouring the paint onto the paper. There's a little bit of magic involved here because I don't quite know what I'll turn out with, but I'm going for a bat or at least maybe some kind of Halloween monster. Let's see what we end up with. So here, I am going to gently pour paint on the left side of my paper. It will come out pretty fast. I'm going to stretch out the paint so that I have kind of like a wing in this area, and you can imagine this is the tail and this is the head. It just looks like a whole big mess at this point, right? Not really anything. Believe it or not, I will be able to turn this into a bat, or at the very least, a nice Halloween monster. Now rub your hand on top of the paper. You're going to want to spread out the paint. This is where the magic happens. We're not quite sure what will turn out. Let's take a look. Hey, that's actually not so bad. But to be honest, I did this project many times, and the first 1, 2, 3 times weren't as good as this. But that's okay. I kept trying till I liked what I got. After your bat has dried completely, now you can add some details with markers. So I'm going to try to make my ink blot here into something a little bit more resembling a bat. So first, let's add some ears. Wow, already, right? It's looking a little bit more like a bat. How about a tail? Hey, not so bad, right? We're getting there. Let's do some little legs here. Wow, this guy is looking awfully cute. Okay, and that little thumb that they have right there, that little claw. Wow, guys, we are doing it. All right, now let's just add these bat wings. Okay, they're a little stubby. Let's make them a little bit more pointed and more bat wing-like. Okay, let me do this side here to match up. Let's see what we have. Hey guys, I think we did it. We almost have a completed bat. Only a few more steps to go. All right, now really the last step is to add some eyes and teeth if you'd like. So I pre-cut some paper here into some little shapes. Basically, all I made was 2 circles and 2 triangles. So with the circle, circles make great eyes. So let me add a little bit of glue. Wow, that's a big eye, but you know what? I think it's gonna work perfectly. Let me add some glue on my second eye. Okay, look at those eyes. You know what it needs? Some pupils. So let me add 2 smaller circles here. Wow, look at that bat. What personality! I actually like that the two circles are not perfect and they're different sizes. Now finally, let's do some teeth. I'll take my little triangle and add some glue. Tooth number 1. And tooth number 2. Now isn't that just the cutest bat you've ever seen? It went from a paint stain to an adorable little bat. And all we needed was a little bit of imagination and a few simple supplies. And it's okay if it doesn't look exactly like a bat or exactly like mine. Any monster will do.
Time to get ready for our next activity, pop-up cards.
Hey happy campers, my name is Jen and I'm so happy to be with you today at Rec at Home. Welcome to my studio and I can't wait to show you what we're going to do today. We're going to make pop-up cards. Now did you know that pop-up cards have been around for almost 700 years? Scientists would use them to be able to teach about human anatomy and astronomy. So learning about the solar systems and learning about the functions inside of our bodies, which is really exciting because that means this art form has been around for a very long time. So the 4 things that you're going to need to do this project with me are 3 pieces of paper, and you need scissors and glue and some markers or crayons. So I'll leave you for a minute to find those things, and then when you're ready, push play and we'll get started. To begin, we're going to fold this green paper in half. And we're going to cut 6 slits, all about relatively the same size. And I would say probably about the width of your finger to your knuckle. Okay? Not very big, but just big enough to make the bump out for your card. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these sides alone, but one of the cuts in to the next cut, I'm going to fold in half. And I'm going to leave this one alone, and I'm going to fold this one in half. And same with this one. I'm going to leave this alone and fold this one in half. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to unfold, then open the card, and all of these that have the crease, I'm going to bump the fold in the center so it comes up. So then when we set up the card, everything's going to rest on these blocks. Okay, so that's the basic structure for the card. Now what I want to do is I want to fold my outer piece of paper, which is going to be the face of the card. I'm going to fold that in half. And I am going to glue it to the green piece. So this is the outer part of my card, and I'm going to glue it to what I just cut. So we'll have the outer part of the card and the inner part of the card. And we just line it up. That. And then we test it out to make sure it works. So that's the exterior part of the card, and this is the interior part of the card. Okay, and it's all nicely lined up. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to freehand a sloth, and I know I'm not going to make him too big, right? So I'll probably, because I know I'm working with half a sheet of paper, I'm going to use a half a sheet of paper to work with when I make my sloth. Now you don't have to make a sloth. You can make any creature you want. The shape I'm going to show you can be used for a bear or a dog or anything really that hangs and has fur. So I'm going to do a shape that is like a circle, half circle. And then he's going to go down and then up into like 2 fingers. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to make a face. Oh, that might be a little bit too big. But you see, it's just a round shape with 2 fingers. And then I'm going to add feet. And then he's got some dark colored eyes, which are like the shape of a teardrop. And then he's got a nose like this. So now we're going to fill these in with color. So I'm going to do his little eyes. I'm just going to leave a little bit of white. And I think I'm going to name this little guy Larry. Larry the Sloth. I wonder what you guys are going to name your sloth. If you're making a sloth, or if you're making a teddy bear, or if you're making a dog. Anything you want. The important part is how to make the pop-up. And I'm going to use another color. To outline and fill in his body. And I'm going to use a lot of curvy lines because he's got a lot of fur. And his body is going in the shape of a curve. So I want to make sure that I show that he's very round. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to use another color to do the face. All right, and then I cut out. We'll speed this part up so we can move on to the next step. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and glue these bits down. So his face here. Put a little face in there. And then we're going to do a little bit of glue here. Oh, Larry, you're so cute. And then we're going to do his little feet. So, he's looking really good, and we'll just attach him here. So then now what we want to do is we want to add some branches. So we're going to add some branches. And just kind of do a couple bits with glue. Oh, sorry, Larry. Larry needs a smile. There we go. What's a sloth without a smile, right? And we're just going to attach this to the outer piece. See that? I'm just going to attach that to the outer piece. I just want to make sure, you got to make sure every time you do that, you want to make and double check that it doesn't overhang on the other side of your card. So just trim that, okay? So that's about as high as you want to go. You see what I'm doing here? You just want to make that about as high as you can without going over the edge. And if you do go over the edge, just cut. And I want to place him like here. So his little paws, let's see, we might have to cut him down a little bit because it does kind of make it along the that's good. I'm just going to add the glue there. And we're just going to test him again and make sure, and we pass the test. There's nothing going over. And then we're going to do a couple more branches. This one might be a little too tall. Attach it just like that. Another branch. You can have a message like, I love hanging out with you. I love hanging out with you. You get it? I think that's a pretty funny little saying. All right, you guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you all next week with another project. You guys take care, have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.
And now for our last activity of the day, paper lanterns.
Hey there, happy campers. Welcome back to Rec at Home, brought to you by the Community Recreation Division of Arlington County Parks and Rec. My name is Miss Lizzie, and this week's theme is holidays. Did you know the Lantern Festival marks the first full moon of the new lunar year and also the end of Chinese New Year? People decorate their homes with these very intricate, beautiful paper lanterns, and for our project today, we're going to be making one too. For this project, we're going to need 3 to 4 pieces of colorful construction paper. Try to find some that are the same size, and then we're also going to need a ruler, a pencil, some markers for decorating, and some type of glue. I'm going to be using a glue stick, but feel free to use Elmer's glue, a glue gun, or glue dots, or whatever you might have on hand. Even tape might work here too. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one color to be the main part of my lamp. I think this pretty purple one is going to do it, so I'm going to set these guys aside for a second. I'm going to start working with this one. First things first, I want to fold this paper in half, and we're going to go hot dog style, so that means we're going to fold along the longest part of our piece of paper here. And the way I do it is I just have the 2 edges of my paper line up like this, and then when that looks good, I'm going to press it down and just fold it right there. Next, we're going to need our ruler or our hard edge and our pencil. We're going to put down some marks on our paper. So along the side that you folded, this side right here, I want to put about an inch of a border, and I'm just going to make a line across like that. And I want to make sure it goes all the way across. Awesome. Next, I'm going to use my ruler again and put down little lines about an inch apart from each other, and just leave little marks right here. I'm gonna make little dots just so I know where I'm going to connect my lines. I'm just gonna go down the entire piece of paper. If you're working with a smaller sheet of paper, you can also go just about 1 centimeter or 1/2 inch. It should work just as well. There we go. And then I'm gonna do the same thing at the bottom so I can connect these lines together. Now that I have my 2 dots, I'm just gonna go ahead and connect these guys. So I'm gonna connect bottom one to the top and stop at the big line I made at the beginning. So you should have something that looks a little bit like this. There we go. And I'm just gonna do the same thing all the way down. Now for this next part, we're going to grab our scissors and we're going to start cutting along these lines that we made. So make sure to be careful, watch your fingers. And we're just gonna cut straight down this line. I'm holding the edge of my paper so I don't make this an uneven cut. And I'm just gonna cut straight to that line that we made at the beginning. So we're not cutting all the way through, just until we're about 1 inch away from the edge of the paper. Sometimes your lines don't come out as perfect as you want them to, but that's totally okay. As long as we don't cut through the paper, we're doing all right. All right, so once you're done cutting, you can open this up, and then you'll see that you have the outside part of your lamp. We're almost there. So what I want to do with this, before I put it aside, is I want to take one of these last little ridges here, and I want to snip it right off, and you'll see why later. But I'm just going to cut both ends right here, just keep it a straight line. And we just have a little strip. I'm just going to put that aside. And so next I want to grab my next sheet of paper. I'm picking this really pretty blue right here, and this is going to make the cylinder for the inside of the lamp. So this is going to be the thing that is going to hold your lamp together and make sure that your lamp can stay put and really look like a lamp. So with my 2 pieces of paper, I'm going to put my new sheet of paper down first. I'm going to grab my lamp part. Put away my scissors because we're done with that for right now. I'm going to grab my glue. And so I just want to line up the 2 edges right here of my 2 pieces of paper. I want those to be together and all the same along the bottom edge right there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of glue all along that edge. We want these 2 parts to stick together, so I'm just going to move this off a little bit to the front, and I'm going to stick a little bit of my glue stick all along this bottom part. And the nice thing about glue sticks is it doesn't get very messy. So I can just put as much as I want right there. If you're working with some liquid glue or some Elmer's glue, don't put too much, you just need enough for these guys to stick together. And paper tends to want to stick to paper with some glue, so you should be fine with just a few dots. And I'm just going to press these guys together now that I have them lined up. Press them out. Use my fist. There we go. And that should be setting in, and we're going to do the same thing to the other side. But before we just stick it down flat, this time we're not going to go with this ridge. We're going instead to go down about 1 inch. And 1 inch is just about this much in your finger, so you can put your finger right on the edge of the paper. And then we will line it up to that measurement right there. So you can eyeball that, or if it makes it easier, you can also grab your pencil again and put little marks where you want to make sure that you line up your paper later. So I'm just going to put a couple of dots right there, just like that. And so now I can flip this over so it doesn't get in the way while I'm putting some glue on here. And so looking where I put my dots, I'm going to line up my glue right there too. Just another long line of glue. That looks good. And so now I'm going to bring over my paper, and I want to make sure, see, I'm getting stuck already. I want to make sure that I'm going to line up to these dots that I put in first. There we go. You want to make sure this edge is still lining up too with the edge of the paper. And I'm going to press it down like we did the other side. Perfect. So you should have something that looks like this, with a little bit of an edge on one side and a little bit of an edge on the other side because we cut this up earlier. I'm going to grab my scissors again, and I'm going to cut
the long strip that's at the top right here. I'm leaving this little part later because we're going to use that to glue the cylinder together. And so now we should have something that looks a lot like this. So for our next step, we are going to turn this into a lamp. And the way we do that is that we fold our pieces of paper together into a cylinder like this. So the way I'm going to secure that is I'm going to grab some more glue, put that on this little ridge right here that we left, making sure I glue that really good. Really don't want this part unsticking later on us. Put my glue away, and so I'm going to grab my edge here, and I'm going to fold it over and make sure these guys line up together. So now that we have the main shape of our lamp, we get to move on to some decorating. So with my last and final sheet of paper, I'm going to bring that out, and I want to make a little band of design up here. So I'm going to take a little sliver of this piece of paper, and I'm going to calculate about 1 inch. If it makes it easier, we can use our ruler again and do the same thing we did before by putting down little marks along our paper like this. And I'm going to need 2 of them, one for the top and one for the bottom. And then using my scissors again, I'm going to go ahead and cut this part out. Because I need 2 strips, I'm cutting my larger strip here in half. And so for this next part, I'm just going to do a little bit of decorating on my little strips of paper here. So the cool thing about my paper is that I have a side that's all white on the other side, and I have a black marker. And so if I wanted to make a design on the black side of my construction paper, it might not show so good, so I can show you right here. I'm going to do a little heart. See, so my little heart, you can't really see it all that well, so I'm not going to use a black marker on a black background. Instead, I'm going to use the white side of this and make some designs here. I think I want to make something that looks a little bit like a wave, so I'm going to do a funky little shape that looks like shark fins all along my paper. And you can do any design you want. You can do geometric patterns like circles and squares, or you can do little hearts. It's all up to you. This lamp is for your home, for your decoration, so feel free to decide whatever you'd like to put on there. So I got my first design ready. I'm going to set that one aside. I have another one. I can do the same thing if I want to. You can do it like this one. It's just the same design on both sides, but maybe I want to do something else on this one. I think little squares with little circles on the inside could look kind of cool, so I'm going to do that. So I finished up my design right here. So on the back of my design, I am going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue all along it like we always do. There we go, making sure to grab all the edges too. And then I like to start with the edge of my piece of paper that I'm gluing on, because we're going to try to, here we're going to try to make sure it stays right along the edge of our lantern. So I'm going to press and push it, press and push all along the side of my lantern. And then just going to go back and press this all down to make sure it's nice and secure. There we go, first side's done. Then we're going to flip our lantern and do the same thing on the other side. And we're on to our last step. This is the easiest part. With what's left of that paper you were cutting up before for our designs, I'm just going to cut a little sliver, and no worries about how long it is. It's just going to be our handle. So I'm just going to grab my scissors, and I can eyeball it if I want to. I can measure it out so it's nice and exact like we were doing before. I'm just going to press it down and make a little invisible line for myself. And then I'm going to go in with my scissors, and I'm just going to cut right along that folded edge I made. Sweet. Because I want the color side to be on the outside of my lamp, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the color side, and you'll see why. Put a little glue at this edge and at this other edge. And then I want to stick my handle from the inside of my lamp. So I'm going to put the glue side of my construction paper in here. I'm going to press it down. And then same thing on the other side. I'm going to press that down right there too. And boom, we have our lantern.
You can give yourself an extra challenge by trying to find some extra materials you can work with, like maybe giving yourself some yarn tassels or finding some tea lights that you can use to illuminate your lantern from the inside. Thanks for joining me this week. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for today's edition of Rec at Home. We'll see you on Facebook tomorrow at 11.